Okay, this is 3.8, number 17. And again, we just want to find the derivative of this function, and this is the inverse secant of 1 over t. T is going to be between 0 and 1, so definitely be positive. And again, we've got our formula for the derivative of the inverse secant of u, a function of x. And that's going to be 1 over the absolute value of u, square root of u squared minus 1 du dx. And in this case, it's going to be t, so instead of x, it's going to be t. And the u will be 1 over t, so the du will be negative 1 over t squared. That's our formula that I told you it would be handy to remember that formula. So we just put this in the derivative formula here. So this is going to be my u is 1 over t, so it's going to be the absolute value of 1 over t times the square root of, and it's going to be u squared, which is 1 over t squared minus 1, times du dx, and that's going to be the negative 1 over t squared. So you write it down carefully. Now remember, again, t is going to be positive, so I really don't need the absolute values. I can write this as 1 over t. Let's get this up here. All right, and there's my negative, so I put this negative sign here. All right, and then I've got the 1 over t squared here, but that's going to be like on top, so kind of remember that. We'll take care of that in just a second. We've got the 1 over t here, and the t's on the bottom. This is in the denominator. All this is in the denominator, if you think about it. So basically, if we look at this denominator here, this is in the top of the denominator, this is in the bottom of the denominator, so these can cancel. I can take one of these t's out of here, so we're going to do that over here. So I have 1 over t times t squared ends up just being t over 1 or t. So that's going to simplify here. Now let's see what I did over here. Again, like I did in some earlier problems, I squared this out, so I got 1 over t squared. And 1 is the same thing as t squared over t squared, so I can simplify this out. So this ends up being 1 minus t squared all over t squared. So again, it's kind of the opposite of when it's tough, break it up. And remember, I just showed you how we got this by simplifying these two factors. Now remember, the square root of a quotient is the quotient of the square root, so I can break that up into 2 square roots. And the square root of t squared is just t as long as t is positive. I don't have to worry about the absolute value. And up here we said that t was between 0 and 1, so it's definitely positive, so I don't have to worry about taking the absolute value. Normally when we see this, the absolute value of t squared, that actually means, normally when we see the square root of t squared, that usually means the absolute value. That's actually another way of writing the absolute value definition. So that just becomes t. But what's t over t? 1. So we end up with negative 1, and then they, in this book, put the negative sign in front. A could go there if we wanted. So it's negative 1 over, those cancel, the square root of 1 minus t squared. So that was your final answer. So there's a bit of algebra after we substitute. This is basically the raw form of the answer. I just put everything right in the formula with the chain rule. But then we simplify it out, so you see this is a lot easier. So all this is algebra. The calculus was one step, the algebra was the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps.